Since we're all gonna die, there's one more secret I feel I have to share with you. I did not care for
the Atlas 6.
What?
Did not care for
the Atlas 6.
How can you even say that, Dad?
Didn't like it.
I want to make it clear that I really did try to like this book. And for a while I thought I was gonna like the book. At every turn, at every pause, I was telling myself that it was gonna get better and that I would like it in any minute. But I think overall there were just too many things that bugged me, and there wasn't enough that kept me interested for me to overall like this book. I definitely liked parts of it. I liked the prose, I thought was really nice at times. So the writing is pretty good, pretty solid throughout. There are some moments where I think it is maybe a little bit much, maybe it's trying to be pretentious when it doesn't need to be, but overall I think the writing was really good. I thought the concepts were really interesting, and I thought that the plot had a lot of potential. Just the execution could have benefited from a little bit of help. So the book that I am talking about is The Atlas 6, which is very highly recommended by absolutely everybody on TikTok and on book Twitter, and I saw this recommended so highly and so many times that I was convinced it was going to be a new favorite of mine. I bought it from the bookstore. I was so excited to start reading it. I really did want to like it, but I don't like it, unfortunately, and I really hate to make a negative video because I think that they suck, but but I have to get my thoughts out. I truly think my brain will explode if I don't get this out. So with all that said, if this is your favorite book and you don't want to hear any criticism of it, please just don't watch this video. Don't leave me any comments. You're not going to be able to change my mind, and it'll just be frustrating for all of us. So there are plenty of videos out there praising this book. I gotta talk shit though. So the premise of this book is that 6 young adults are recruited by this guy named Atlas, the Atlas 6, more you know, and they are being initiated into this secret magic society called the Alexandrian Society. And each of these people is from a different place. They all have different magic abilities and different personalities. Because the Alexandrian Society is so secret and so exclusive, the 6 candidates have to go through a period of initiation before they can be actually made members, and at the end of their initiation they have to kill one of the 6 candidates. So our characters are Tristan and Callum, who I can barely distinguish between, if I'm being honest, Parisa, Raina, Libby, and Nico. So Libby and Nico have just graduated from university. The book opens up with them at their graduation ceremony, and they have just graduated with degrees in physics, I presume, from a magic university. They're academic rivals and begrudging friends. Parisa is this affluent, sexy woman, and her I should tell you their powers. Libby and Nico's powers are related to physics, so they're called physicists in both a magical sense and a literal sense. Parisa is a telepath. Raina is a naturalist, which means that she talks to plants. She makes plants grow. Tristan is also there. Tristan can control gravity, I think, but honestly, it comes up so infrequently that I kind of forgot. And Callum's power is emotional manipulation, which I don't think should count because doesn't every man do that? So let's talk about the characters first, because this book is pretty character driven. I would say that between characters, plot, and theme, this book is character driven. That it was just a little bizarre that they really didn't get a whole lot of development, and I think one of the biggest issues was that they didn't have a whole lot of motive. So one of the characters, I think it's Callum, I want to say it's Callum, when he's asked why he wants to join the Alexandrian Society, he says, "I don't have anything better to do," And I really almost put the book back down then, because none of these characters ever give us a concrete reason why they want to join the Alexandrian Society. Libby and Nico make the most sense because they're academics. The Alexandrian Society is the Library of Alexandria, so it is very concerned with education and becoming better at your practice. So it makes sense that they want to join, but also wanting to be educated isn't really that good of a reason to want to join a society that you have to kill someone in order to get into. And then Parisa, Reyna, Tristan, and Callum barely give us any reason at all why they want to join the Alexandrian Society. And I think this book would have been already so much stronger if each of the characters had a concrete, specific reason they wanted to join. Because why do they want to do this? Callum probably wants power, but say that. Tell me that he wants power. Tell me that he's selfish and he wants to be evil, because he's horrible. I hate Callum. But you're supposed to hate Callum, so that's okay. But I think that's just a really major issue with the book right off the bat, is that none of the characters seem to want anything. At no point in the book are they working towards something that they have explained why they want. That was a really bad sentence, but I hope the concept makes sense to you. None of the characters ever outline what they want and then take steps to get what they want. So it's really hard to empathize with them or to root for them when you don't really know why they're doing what they're doing. And a lot of the time, they're not really doing anything. So the Alexandrians is, okay, well, I might be kind of getting into plot right now. So I'm going to come back to that. Libby is definitely the character. Okay, I shouldn't say definitely. In my opinion, Libby is the character with the most development. She's my favorite character because she has the most development. A lot of this development comes pretty late into the book. We find out, I'm just going to tell you because I'm just going to have spoilers in this book. Libby's sister has died of a degenerative disorder, and so Libby is wanting to find magic that can reverse or stop the effects of time. That is a crazy strong motivation. Great motivation. I love that for her. Great reason for her to want to join the Alexandrian Society. But that should be something we find out earlier, I think, because it is the catalyst for her joining the Alexandrian Society. It's the reason she's in the book in the first place. And so I think that needs to be made clear a lot earlier. Nico has a line at some point where he's asked why he wants to join the Alexandrian Society, and he says, he's asked why he is willing to kill someone in order to join the Alexandrian Society, and he says, what part of this wouldn't you kill for? Implying that this is a really, really big desire of his to join the Alexandrian Society, and yet we don't have any concrete reason for him to want to be in the Alexandrian Society. It doesn't make any sense, because yes, he's an academic, he wants more knowledge, he wants to be an expert in his field, he wants to be able to do things that other people can't, but that's not really a strong enough motive. It's too general. Like, it might work in the real world, but this is a book. I need very specific reasons why he wants to join. What sort of magic does he want to learn? What sort of history does he want to learn? What is he trying to get from the Alexandrian Society? What books specifically? What teaching specifically? What magic does he want to learn? So it's bizarre that the stakes are this high, and yet none of them seem to have a dog in the race, you know? None of them seem to really even have lives outside of the Alexandrian Society, except for also Libby and Nico, who Nico has friends, Libby has a boyfriend, who doesn't come up that much. But so none of them even really have better things to do. Like Callum said, like, I hate to agree with that horror, but none of them really seem to have anything better to do. Like, they've got nothing going on in their lives, so they might as well kill someone. That's kind of what it feels like. And that's really bad. Parisa doesn't really have a concrete reason for wanting to join. Reyna is my favorite character. I love you, baby, but why are you here? Tristan, Tristan is also there. So many of the characters are so boring because we hardly know anything about them. We don't know their backstories or the things that they want to do. We don't know what makes them who they are. A lot of them just get very, very general characteristics. So Libby is anxious, Parisa is hot, Callum sucks, and that's all we get from them for the entire book. And it gets a little bit tiring to hear that repeated over and over. Like, Libby is frequently called, she's called out for being too anxious and for apologizing too much. And it's like, she doesn't even act that anxious. And it's one of those show don't tell things where we're told a lot that Libby is anxious, that she's uncertain of herself. But whenever we actually watch Libby through her own narration, she doesn't really seem to be that unconfident. She's not particularly confident, but she doesn't seem to be that insecure of herself. If anything, I think she is... I thought she came across as being pretty secure. She knows she's smart. The only thing that she ever struggles with is being smart next to Nico. So in reference to Nico, maybe she's a little bit insecure because they're academic rivals, but she knows she's smarter than these other bitches. So it's just weird because it doesn't really seem to match. With Parisa, we're told frequently that she's sexy, and this is basically all we ever learn about her life, is just that she's hot and she seduces a lot of men. And listen, I like Parisa. I actually like all the female characters. I think they're all good. But I like Parisa. She's confident and sexy, but that's basically it for a long time. Like, that's all we get about her, is that she's hot and she seduces a lot of men. She sleeps with a lot of men. And that's just, in the year of our Lord, 2021, that is not enough for me. I need to know more than that about her, about this girl, because like, that doesn't do it for me. Especially the fact that she is a woman of color, and really her primary characteristic is that she's sexually attractive for a large portion of the book. That doesn't really sit totally right with me, and I don't really like that, if I'm being honest. It's also the only thing that people talk about her about, if that makes sense. So other characters will be talking about Parisa. They'll be like, oh, I was talking to Parisa the other day. She's so hot. And it's like, she is more interesting than that. She has a lot of conversation. Oh, she's not a lot. She had this one conversation with this guy that I thought was super interesting because we were finally getting some insight into her and her opinions and her beliefs. And I thought it was so great that we were finally getting deeper with her. Like, and then they just had sex. It's like, also, this is silly, but there's a lot of cutaway sex scenes in this book, so we get the implication that Parisa and some dude are gonna go fuck, and then they do so off screen, and it's like, Miss Blake, if you're gonna give me a character who is this sexual in a book that is not a YA book, can you at least do me the decency of giving me a sex scene? Like, can you at least give me that gratification? Because it's a little rude that I didn't get basically any sex scenes out of this. It really does just make me sad that her character is so interesting and there is so much to her. Her power is insane. I would venture to say she's one of the most powerful of these characters, and yet the primary thing we know about her is that she's hot. And it's like, come on. Raina really gets just like nothing the whole book. She was still my favorite character because I think she's cool. But it's just her vibes, you know, I think her vibes are cool. I know virtually nothing about her. Another thing is that the characters don't seem to interact with each other a whole lot. So Libby and Nico interact a lot, and they have a lot of chemistry as friends and as potential romantic partners, maybe. But they've known each other for years. They didn't just meet here. And the characters who have just met, all the other ones, don't really interact with each other a lot. Raina hardly talks to anybody, which is fair. Parisa just has those like sexual encounters, and none of them really talk to each other. You know, there's never a scene where they just sit down and all talk about their beliefs, about their lives, about themselves. They don't talk about why they want to join the Alexandrian Society or what kind of magic they do. Like, they don't talk. So at the end of the book, you're like, okay, they have to kill someone. Well, they're not friends, so that shouldn't really be a problem. The only problem is Libby and Nico, and I don't think either of them were ever in danger of getting killed. So it's just like, they're all like, Libby's like, oh no, how will I kill one of these people? Just do it, girl. You don't know them. Callum sucks. Just... you'll be better for it. In vibes, a lot of the characters are very cool, and so I do think that there is potential in the sequel that these characters get developed a bit more and that they have more interactions. Oh. But as it stands, they don't really have any meaningful relationships with each other, so there weren't a whole lot of stakes whenever they had to kill someone or they had to start talking about killing someone, because it's like, well, you met this person basically a week ago and you haven't seen him since, so I know that you don't want to kill someone because killing somebody is bad. See, that's the thing, is that it seems kind of like the reason Libby is so averse to wanting to killing someone is because the action of killing someone is bad, not because she cares about the person that they're gonna have to kill, because she doesn't care about the person that they have to kill. Callum sucks. Callum is horrible. In a normal scenario where even if there was no ultimatum, they would probably still want to kill him. Like, even if they could just get all 6 of them led into the Alexandrian Society, I would still be rooting for them to kill him. So the fact that they have to kill someone isn't the tense part, or the fact that they have to kill one of their friends isn't the tense part. The actual murder is the tense part, and it's like, look, this is fiction. Just kill him. Alright, just do it. I'm not trying to advocate for murder. I know it sounds like I am. And I do think it's valid that Libby is averse to wanting to kill someone. But what about the other characters? Nico? Babe? Come on, just kill him. Just do it. For me. Now let's talk about the Alexandrian Society itself and the magic system. So the magic system is there. But it's not very well defined, and we never really get a whole lot of explanation as to how anything works, which I think is fine. A soft magic system is good sometimes because it gives us room to grow. This is a series, so in the future maybe it will get defined a little more, but they do too much magic in this book for it to not be defined, is my opinion. Especially because Parisa's good, I get it. Reyna's good, I get it. I literally don't know what Tristan does, so I don't care about that. Callum, whatever. Fuck him. Libby and Nico. Libby and Nico's power is related to physics, which I think is really interesting. I always think it's interesting whenever fantasy writers combine science with magic, kind of magical realism. I think that's great. But we don't know how it works. We know that sometimes they're able to manipulate atoms or change forces and energy, but like, what does that mean? How are they able to do it? What are the limits of it? Do they have to learn how to do this, or is it something that they can just do? Do they have to practice? It's not really well defined. We never get an explanation as to how they're able to do this, as to what goes into doing this, and what the limits of that are. Does that, yeah. And I think these powers really need to be defined because the book is very concerned with physics and with science. So having powers that are based on science, you need concrete. It needs to be concrete. You need to explain it in concrete terms. The Alexandrian Society itself is just kind of there, which I feel like is a running theme with this review, is that a lot of stuff is just there but isn't explained. We've only met 2 people who are Atlas and Dalton. Dalton's just some bitch. I haven't mentioned him up until this point because he hasn't been all that helpful. And we don't really know the purpose or the organization of the Alexandrian Society. We don't know who's in it. We don't know what it really means to be a member of the Alexandrian Society. We know you get access to the library, but what's in the library? What are we trying to get from the library? All of this also goes back to character motivations, because there really aren't any. So it's like, why do we want them to be in the Alexandrian Society? How can they benefit from the Alexandrian Society? How does the story benefit from the Alexandrian Society? What are they going to do when they get there? Just study? The characters... this book is marketed as dark academia, but the characters never go to school. Like, they don't go to class or lecture. Atlas isn't, a professor. Or at least he doesn't act like one. So I was a little confused about a third of the way in. I was thinking, am I wrong? Is this a school? Is this a university? Or are they just chilling? Because it seems like for the majority of the book, they're just straight chilling in this nice house, basically. Like, they're all just in separate rooms doing their own thing and vibing. None of them have to do any magic. Well, they do magic, but it's not for the purposes of a lesson or for the purpose of learning. It's for the purpose of whatever the fuck they're up to, and I feel like a large selling point of this book is the aesthetic, which is good. I think that's enough for a lot of people. It's not enough for me in this context, but if you just want to read a book about hot people in Oxford, I got you covered, girl, right here. But for me, that's just not enough. It's not a story, it's just a vibe. This whole book is like a mood board, like it's a Pinterest board of dark academia, loosely given a plot and given a couple character names. So let's talk about the story. The plot is meandering, and I actually don't mind that at all. I really like a good meandering plot. I think it's great as long as the characters are talking to each other, because this is a character-driven story, so the plot really should take a backseat, I think. The plot doesn't matter that much, but the characters also don't talk to each other, so all of a sudden the plot does matter because there's no character beats. Things happen, but nothing's going on, if that makes sense. They do things, but we don't really know why, or what they gain from it, or what they lose from it, or what the stakes are, or why they're there in the first place, or why these things are happening in the first place. A lot of stuff is also introduced and then dropped, which is okay because this is the first book in a series, so presumably those things are gonna come up again. But like, a lot of things are introduced and then dropped. And so that kind of has the effect of making the book as a whole feel like something's missing. It makes the whole thing feel like there should be more. And that's not great. I've seen reviews on Goodreads where people are like, oh, I'm so upset that we don't even know why they have to kill someone. And I was like, yeah, that's a good point. We never get an explanation as to why a sacrifice is needed, but I also just don't give a shit. I think it's great that they have to kill someone, because that is the only thing giving us any tension in the story right now. So I really need them to keep that element, because that is the only source of tension in the whole book, and it is barely tension at all, if I'm being honest, because like I said, the obvious choice the entire time is Callum. And another thing is that this twist, it's treated like a twist that they need to kill someone. So Parisa finds out maybe a little before halfway point, and then other characters start to find out that they need to kill someone. Libby is the last one to find out that a sacrifice is needed, and this is well into the book. This is like third act. She finds out that they need to kill someone. But it isn't a twist because it's on the back cover of the book. It's in the description that someone has to die. And so whenever the characters are acting so surprised, whenever this is used as dramatic irony, and whenever this is kind of held over their heads, I know I've known since before I picked up the book that you had to kill someone. And so the character is acting so surprised and being so shocked and horrified. It's like, we're already past this, okay? I know. And that's just really weird because it takes away from a lot of the tension. Libby figuring out that she has to kill someone could be a really dramatic moment if it wasn't in like 75% of the way through the book. All the other characters already know and don't care. I already know and don't care. It's old news at this point. So whenever she figures it out, it's like, yeah, just do it. Just let Parisa do it, you know? She's a girl boss, she could handle it. The characters ask about why they have to kill someone, they don't get an answer. Again, I don't really care. I think, you know, it happens. Sometimes you have to kill someone. But it is weird whenever they treat it as such a plot twist. Even Parisa, I think, who is the first person who figures it out, I still think it's a little weird she's so surprised by it. Because they know that 6 people go into the initiation and 5 people become members. What did they think was going to happen to that extra person? Did they think you would get initiated into a secret society and then just go home, live out the rest of your life in peace with the knowledge of a secret society of elite people who still have access to the Library of Alexandria? Did you think you could just live with that knowledge? No, obviously someone's gonna snipe you on the way out. And I think that the author kind of does herself a disservice with this because it is so clear from the get-go that they're gonna kill Callum. Like, immediately you're like, okay, Callum sucks. They're gonna kill him. None of the characters like him except Tristan, God knows why. And so, like, obviously they're gonna kill him. We all hate him. Obviously we're gonna kill Callum. The moment Parisa suggested killing Callum, I was like, okay, just do it. Get to it, kill him, please. The pacing is all over the place. There's a really major event that I will talk about in the physics portion of this video that happens off screen. An event that I think should have been the climax of the novel happens off screen. We get a line from Libby's narration where she says, and I'm just going to tell you what the event is because we're not bothering with spoilers. It's also not really a spoiler because it happens very early on and it has no effect on the plot. Libby has this narration, and I'm paraphrasing here, where she's like, last night Nico and I created a wormhole and it took us 2 weeks of work, but we did it. And I legitimately thought that I missed a chapter. I was like, wait a minute. You made a wormhole in your school? And that happened last night and you're not going to show me? You're not going to show me Nico jumping into a wormhole not knowing if he's about to get torn to fucking atoms? You're not going to show me that? Truly the most bizarre writing choice I've ever encountered. And I'm not even exaggerating there. Bizarre. Absolutely insane. And then this like barely comes up again later, and I have a whole section dedicated to the physics in this book, so I'm going to talk about this extensively later, but buck wild. Anyway, the plot twist, there's a plot twist at the end. We get a plot twist villain. I won't tell you who it is, not that you care. And it kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, I wasn't expecting it, so it was a successful plot twist, but I also just didn't really care whenever it happened, because it's a character that we know so little about and who has had so little screen time that I was like, oh, okay, that's the villain now. I didn't really give a shit. Unfortunately, I just didn't care. And I think it could have been fantastic. See, that's the thing. That's what frustrates me the most, is that it could have had really good build-up. And I'm going to talk about this later, so I really need to stop. But the villain is interested or is associated with time travel. So why wasn't the wormhole a bigger deal? Because wormholes deal with space-time. So So let's move on to the next section, which is... This is just a little sidebar about representation. I didn't know where to put it, and it's also not that important, so I'm just going to slide it in here. This book is heavily marketed, and this is probably TikTok's fault, not the writer, but it's pretty heavily marketed as a diverse dark academia book, and that's true. A lot of the characters are non-white, and that's good, but it is still very Eurocentric and still pretty heteronormative. Outside of maybe one or two relationships which don't get a lot of screen time, every relationship is heterosexual. All of the characters except Reina are from Western countries, we're living in Western countries. Parisa is Middle Eastern, but she was living in Europe, and Reina is in Japan. She lives in Japan, but all the other characters are from or have been living in Western countries. So yes, this is a diverse dark academia book, but it's also not groundbreaking. The part you've all been waiting for, the physics and the wormhole debacle. So I feel like a lot of people are going to skip this section because it's boring, but it was very important to me, so I'm unfortunately going to dump it all on you. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive me. The physics in this book does not make sense, basically at all. So like I said, Nico and Libby have just graduated from a magic university with a degree presumably in physics, but we also don't get a whole lot of information about this degree. What sort of degree is it? Is it a bachelor's degree? Is it a PhD? That's a huge difference for physics. What's their area of specialty? Do they have an area of specialty? Is magic physics the same as normal physics? Because I was kind of under the impression that it wasn't, just because they never seem to do any calculations or any studying or anything. It's all just magic. So I was kind of thinking that maybe magic physics is more about just like the world. I don't know. Physics in more of an abstract sense, however, hang on. I don't know why that got away from me. I was kind of thinking that magic physics was physics in a more abstract sense, whereas physics is like math and very concrete, very science-based. But I actually don't know if that's true. Like I said, they never have to study or do any calculations, but you know what? Maybe they did do calculations when they built the wormhole, but I wouldn't fucking know because I didn't get to watch them build a wormhole. It really pisses me off. I'm so sorry. And it is described so many times as being revolutionary, as this is something that all of humankind has not been able to comprehend. This is something that has been outside of the realm of human possibility for all of time, until Libby and Nico built a wormhole in 2 weeks with no explanation at all. We don't know how they built the wormhole. We don't know why they built the wormhole. We don't know what they hoped to get from the wormhole. We don't know, we literally just don't know why or how they built a wormhole, which is pretty significant, especially when in the context of the story, this is the first time a wormhole has ever been built, as far as the characters know. This is revolutionary, and we have no idea how it works even, and it just doesn't make sense to me. There are so many theories out there about wormholes that you could have just picked any one of them and it would have been fine. I think I mentioned earlier that Libby had a sister who died of a degenerative disorder, and so Libby has been in search of magic that can help her to reverse or to slow the effects of time. Wormholes are space-time. So this should have been an enormous emotional moment for her. I really think this should have been the climax of the book. I think this would have been a fantastic climax of the book, maybe right after we find out about Libby's emotional trauma, so that we have that with us to kind of to think about while we're building the wormhole, and we can see how much it means to her. And then maybe right after we build the wormhole, the plot twist villain can come in, and they're super concerned with time travel and all that stuff, so they can be kind of in the corner, like scheming. I think that'd be super cool, and it would be such a great setup for the next book, and we would get to feel how revolutionary this wormhole is. We would get to feel their excitement and their anxiety, and we would get to see them do something that was truly incredible, something that has never been done before, and we could get some explanation as to how the wormhole works, because right now we have no idea how the wormhole works. We get genuinely zero explanation as to how the wormhole works, and whenever Libby tries to explain the wormhole to Tristan, fuck you, Tristan, by the way, Libby tries to explain the wormhole to Tristan, and he goes, yeah, whatever, I don't care. I'm gonna murder you. How about that? If I was Libby, I would have literally killed him. And then the rest of the book, there would be no tension because somebody's already dead. Like, Callum would get a free pass that day because I would have snapped this man's neck with my bare hands if he had the audacity to say that to me after I just pulled up the biggest accomplishment in science ever. But Libby's a much nicer person than I am, so. Libby also has this bit of narration in the wormhole chapter where she says, oh, I don't have it in front of me. She says something like, well, now that we've made a wormhole that can go through space, we could also make a wormhole that goes through time, or through space-time. That is a wormhole. That's what a wormhole is. Wormholes go through space-time. That's the definition of a wormhole. And I started gaslighting myself, being like, maybe I don't know what a wormhole is, maybe I'm just making this up. So I googled the definition of wormhole, and yeah, space-time is in the definition. Libby, you have a degree in physics. You need to know what a wormhole is if you're going to be building one in your backyard. How the fuck did you build a wormhole without going through space-time? What they did is they built a portal, but that doesn't sound cool and science-y. That doesn't sound smart. So they said wormhole. You didn't build a fucking wormhole if you didn't go through space-time. How do you make that mistake? How would she make that mistake? It's literally impossible that she made that mistake, because wormholes are space-time. Well, okay, wormholes are theoretical and they haven't been proven yet, but wormholes are theoretically where space-time is bent so that 2 points meet and you can join through space. Well, that was a very bad explanation, but maybe I'll put up a graphic to kind of help that along. Oh, and then after Tristan, I'm kind of circling back, but after Tristan is like, yeah, whatever, shut up, Libby, you bitch, I hate you. He doesn't say that, but it's what I understood in the subtext. After Tristan is like, yeah, whatever, I don't care, he goes to talk to Callum and maybe Parisa. He goes to talk to someone, and he's like trying to argue with them about why what Nico and Libby did was incredible. And it's like, you bastard. You bastard. You just blew her off. And now you're gonna go over and be like, those two 20-somethings, they just did something that has been beyond human comprehension for all of time. She was gonna break it down for you. It's beyond your comprehension. It is beyond your comprehension because you didn't let her explain it to you. And then Tristan's talking about how this is so incredible. Whoever is narrating, I think it's Callum, is like, Tristan and fucking quantum theory. What do you mean, Tristan and quantum theory? Why the fuck? What does Tristan know about quantum? Tell me that. What does Tristan know about quantum theory? Tristan is just some guy, okay? Nico and Libby are physicists. Why are we getting Tristan's opinion about quantum theory? Why are we getting his input? I want to hear from Libby. I want to hear how she built that motherfucking wormhole. Because it doesn't make any sense. Later, and this is what I was trying to get to, but I keep getting caught up because I'm so frustrated. Later, they talk about needing a power source in order to make a wormhole that goes through time. I don't want to talk about it anymore. You know what? It does go through time because it's a wormhole. If it wasn't a wormhole, or if it didn't go through time, it wouldn't be a wormhole. It goes through space-time. That's time, babe. they need a power source so that their wormhole can go through space-time, whatever. They start talking about nuclear energy, and that's a little weird. But I can see the connection. It's kind of grasping at straws, but I can see the connection because one of the theories of wormholes does have to do with gravity, and with black holes, like the inverse of a black hole is a white hole, a wormhole. If the black hole sucks everything in, the white hole pushes everything out. That's one theory. I don't really like that one, but I don't think it lends itself very well to this book because it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense in the context, but whatever. In that case, maybe nuclear energy would be beneficial because stars are nuclear energy, the more you know. So, big star gets really little, massive amounts of gravity, infinite density. Sure, call it a wormhole. It's a black hole, but we can call it a wormhole in the book, and that's fine. But then, that's not what they're... I'm really just, like, grasping at straws trying to understand what they mean in most of the physics in this book, because it just doesn't make any sense. And I know that it's not gonna make sense, and the more I analyze it, the more confused I'm gonna get, but it's just... I'm fixated on it now. Like, I have to talk about it or else I'll die. They talk about nuclear energy. They never mention stars, so I assume they don't actually need a star, but I also just don't know why they're talking about nuclear energy so much. Are they going to build a wormhole that is powered by nuclear energy? Because outside of star, like, if you're not talking about a star, I don't know why you need nuclear energy. I think... and this is another point that could have helped to clarify what they mean by a wormhole. Do wormholes exist naturally, or do they only exist with magic? I think that would have been good to explain, because, and it's possible that Nico and Libby don't know, but if they were able to observe a wormhole and recreate it, that makes a bit more sense because they already have an idea of how to do it. If they just came up with this wormhole by themselves, what the fuck? I'm gonna need a little bit more help with that. Like, I'm gonna need you to explain to me how they did that. Either way, I need you to explain it, but it's also just like a much bigger deal if they just kind of pulled it out of their ass. No, their asses. They have multiple. There are two people. They don't have the same ass. That would be crazy. They talk about needing a nuclear power source a couple times, but it's like, why? And also, okay, so Libby says it would be so crazy if someone was born with the ability to manipulate nuclear energy. Just go to a nuclear power plant. Nuclear energy exists. Just go to Chernobyl. If the Alexandrian Society exists, if the Library of Alexandria still exists, you can build Chernobyl, okay? Just rebuild Chernobyl, and you're fucking good. You're fucking set. Anyway, they also talk about quantum mechanics, and it's just like a little weird how they they bring up a lot of different areas of physics but don't explain what they're doing together. And also, an alternative power source is Reyna. So they talk about using Reyna as a power source, but I don't think Reyna's power is nuclear. Right? So I'm thinking Reyna is the naturalist. She makes plants grow. She talks to plants. If anything, I would think that she's able to, like, do photosynthesis, or that her energy is solar, which, okay, there's a connection between solar energy and nuclear energy that is there. I can see how we can make that connection. But I would really think that her power is, like, to photosynthesize or to promote cell reproduction, not nuclear energy. And I also think that, you know, a regular nuclear power plant probably has more nuclear energy than one bitch, you know? I don't want to call Reyna a bitch. I'm sorry. That was my aggressiveness and my frustration coming out. I didn't mean to say that about my queen. I love her. But I'm also confused as to why they need a power source in the first place, because, and you know, this all has to stem from the same issue, which is that they never tell us how the black hole is made. They never tell us how the wormhole is made, so I don't understand where the power is going. So I'm assuming they're not building a black hole in... I'm assuming that they're I'm assuming their wormhole is not gravitational. I'm assuming that. Because if it was gravitational, it probably would have destroyed the city, unfortunately. Even if it was magic gravity, I think it would still destroy the city. Probably the Earth, but I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt and just saying the city. But then how does it work? All of this to say, I've been ranting for a long time. All of this to say, how the fuck did you make a wormhole? And why the hell did you do it off screen? Why didn't you show me how you built the wormhole? That is by far the most interesting thing in the book, is them building a wormhole, and it happens off screen. And this happens pretty early in the book, and then for the rest of the book, they just kind of talk. They mention it every so often, but it does not come back up. The wormhole does not make another appearance. Nico uses the wormholes to just like teleport to the kitchen to get a snack every so often. And it's like, okay, King, I see you, I respect it, but how are you doing that? If he's able to make a wormhole that can transport an entire person, that's pretty good. How much bigger do you need it? If he's able to do that by himself, I should say, how big of a power source do they need if he can already build a wormhole that can teleport his entire self? What are they trying to move? How far are they trying to move it? Where are they trying to go in time? When are they trying to go? Funny. Like, what year are they trying? Why do they want to time travel? I know why Libby wants to time travel, but I don't know that when they build the wormhole. I don't know why she wants to time travel. At the time they build the wormhole, I don't know why Libby is interested in time. Why is anybody else interested in time, though? The villain is interested in time, and Libby is interested in time, but why did they build a wormhole wanting to time travel if... Like, what was their intention here? What were they gonna do? Did they just think it would be cool? Because you're right... But why did you even attempt in the first place? Building a wormhole in a residential area is something that could have gone wrong in a number of horrifying ways. Nico jumping into a wormhole, not knowing if it was functional, is something that could have gone wrong in a number of horrifying ways. So what stakes were there that they did this? Why did they do this if they knew it was dangerous, if they didn't think it would work? Like, what were the stakes? What were they trying to gain from it? I think the biggest problem with the book is that we don't ever get any stakes. We don't know why they want to join the Alexandrian society. We don't know why they want to build a wormhole. We don't know why they're so averse to killing Callum. I would have killed him the second I met him. That's not true if the police are watching. Anyway, all this to say, I think that the Atlas 6 had a lot of potential. It had a lot of potential for really great characters, a really interesting magic system, and like even the plot would have been really interesting if it had been restructured a little bit. I do think that some of this has to do with the fact that this book didn't have an editor. This book was self-published, which, okay, let's take a break and say that is an enormous accomplishment, and the author should be very proud of herself that she was able to do this. But I do think it's going to benefit from an editor in the future. It is going to be traditionally published soon. I hope that they give some revisions and then it can be better, because I think there is a really good story here. And after it goes through a few rounds of editing, it can be a really interesting and really good story. It can be like a cult classic. I think the book will really benefit from an editor. I hope that the sequels are also traditionally published so that they can get an editor. And then I think that you could have a really good story here. But the issues, and I'll summarize my points. The characters don't have enough development, and it's hard to sympathize with them when you don't know who they are or what they want. The plot isn't really there, and the world building isn't really there, and the physics doesn't make any sense. And in a book where 2 of the 6, a third of the main characters are physicists, the physics really needs to make sense. That needs to be a really significant portion of the book, is just explaining the physics. And because this is a fantasy book, explaining the magic, explaining the Alexandrian society. Yeah, but all in all, I do think it's going to benefit from an editor. I think that the first thing the editor should do is take out the part about them needing to kill someone from the description, because if we didn't know that, that would have been a really good plot twist. And I know that the author wrote this book intending for that to be a plot twist. And so you just take that out of the back, girly. You gotta take that out of the back, because it'll be really good if the readers don't go in already knowing the plot twist. Yeah, but that's all I have to say. I say that as if I said very little. That's all I had to say. I know it took me an hour to film this. I would love to talk about this book in the comments with you guys, whether you agree with me or disagree. Either way, totally fine, totally cool. And I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.